You're not right twice, buddy.
Fine.
All right, you can take... Okay, starting with white, after the multicolored, you can take this one, but before you start, this is the front runner for my favorite art. Oh my god.
Oh, this art is in.
Oh my god. Yes. Whoever this artist is,
a little Dooney.
Brock Grossman is a god of art.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, sorry.
Brock. I mean.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Air response unit. 2 and a white for an artifact breach or artifact vehicle. Flying vigilance. Crew 1, and it's a 3/3.
That's an uncommon. I mean, this is as aggressive as one of these can be. So isn't
Yeah.
So Smuggler's Copter, a card that was banned in Standard, right? What was it? Was a 3/3 flying vigilance for 2 that crewed 1, I think. That also looted whenever it attacked.
Well, that card was
bonkers. So this is fixed Smuggler's Copter. It's nowhere near as good, but
I mean,
I think it's good. I think this is quite good.
Yeah, it's quite good. Once we'll see if there's like some common 1-drops that will crew this easily.
I bet that there's a 2/3 for 2 and a white that makes a 1/1 pilot. How much you want to bet?
Or a Thopter. Or a Thopter. All it needs to be is a Thopter.
Yeah. Or you even want 2 Thopters, because this sucker has vigilance, so it is a beast at attacking and blocking.
Right.
I think this is like a B. I'm just going to assume that I can do this, and that this card's just silly.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
Yeah, a 3/3 flying vigilance for 3 seems like it should be pretty manageable to get to.
Yeah. So I think this is a B. I think this card's great. It might even be better if you can just really do it for free. All right. I'm never going to be able to say Alacrian. That sounds much better. Thank you. Alacrian Armor. 3 and a white for an artifact, also uncommon. Creatures you control have +0/+1 and have vigilance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target mount or vehicle you control until end of turn. That permanent becomes saddled if it's a mount and becomes an artifact creature if it's a vehicle. Does that push this into playability? Probably. We have seen enough vehicles and mounts. Yeah.
Yeah.
They go together well. Like, I think you kind of have to have a lot of vehicles and mounts for you to like really be into this. But again, white it's also better obviously if you go wide to like swing and still block. Really adds to the pressure of threat of combat. So it's obviously also good. This makes combat tricks better because by pumping the bottoms of things, it will encourage people to double block more, right? And things having vigilance. So like this makes combat tricks like sneakily a lot better. The fact this costs 4 and not 5 is also pretty compelling. It actually does affect the board by immediately crewing something.
And giving just vigilance.
How good though? Better than B-? Better, I should say better than C+. Is this better than a C+? Because it's not really a card. Like, all this together is not quite, I think, 1 card of value. But it could get there.
That'd be really heavy in the space.
Because you know what else crews pretty much any saddle or any vehicle or mount for 4? A 4/4. A 4/4 also does that. And is much more impactful than an artifact that does not do really anything else. Plus one says, okay. I don't know. I'll try this.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I don't think this probably is a C+. Like
I could see this potentially being unplayable. I can see this settling out where this is like last pick.
To be unplayable, but I want it to be good.
It could be good. Maybe you have other artifacts, energies. Maybe you sack this with some outlet and Orzhov or something. Yeah, I like it though. Yeah, I'm gonna start it at build around C+. That's the bailout. We'll call it a build around.
Yeah, a build around. Yeah,
take that, limited resources.
Build around
C+. All right. This is you.
Yep. Bright Field Glider. 1 white for a common. It's a creature possum mount. So it's a 1/1 vigilant. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gets +1/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. Oh, it saddles for. Oh.
That's an expensive saddle. It does have vigilance, so then it can chump block. But saddling for free. I mean, a 1/1 vigilance is kind of interesting if you have 2 drops that start your engines right, because then you do this on 1, 2 drop, you start your engine, immediately go to 2 with this being able to attack, assuming that you went first and or they didn't have a 2 drop. A 1/1 flyer for 1 is what I first thought this was when I just saw 1/1 for 1 in the art, which I would have been like, oh, that's good with start your engines. That I'm in for.
Yeah.
I don't think this is good. I don't think this is good. I think this is like a D+. I wouldn't even give this a C-. Maybe it is a C- if you're like, we have to see. Speed is so weird.
This would have been so insane if it was a flying and gained vigilance when it was saddled.
Yeah. If it just got bigger and had vigilance, if that was flipped, if the words flying and vigilance were flipped on this card, that would be very good. Maybe it's still good though, because it actually does it on turn 3, right? Because you can still saddle things that have summoning sickness, or you can still use them to saddle.
Yeah.
So you can, which that again, the greatest designers, because that's not hate. So just again, another random design rant. Please skip 30 seconds into the future if you don't want this. But think of how cool it is that the idea of summoning sickness is that as you arrive to the battle, you can't immediately enter it because you have to get accustomed to the battlefield, basically. That's the idea. But hasty can do it immediately because they're hasty. Well, if you're riding a mount, then you can ride directly into battle, right? So being able to crew to effectively get into the battle quicker as part of this other creature is amazing top-down design synergy within the existing game space. Yeah, it's so perfect that people that aren't as silly as me don't even realize it, right? They're just like, sure, it makes sense. It's on a mount.
Gavin's almost finished. Keep going.
I'll whisper in his ear. You're so good, Gavin. So yeah, this is this is maybe actually okay because on turn 3 this is attacking in the air. So I think you might specifically have to care about speed, and then maybe it's better than I'm thinking. C-
maybe.
even.
Maybe
a C-.
Yeah, I'll say if you're on the play, you play this turn 1. They don't have a turn 1 play, and then you have something that starts your engines on turn 2, and then you hit them with this, and then you get your max speed immediately turn 3 by saddling this turn 3.
Yeah, so
that's pretty good.
And then even being able to saddle it gets you in the bailout situation of you going second and them having a 2-drop. At least this is literally not a card, or it's not a card. It's at least a card still, because they can crack in there for flying, and maybe in the late game that matters too. So yeah, I guess it's a C-. I was initially harsh on this sweet little flying mouse. Flying squirrel? Is it a squirrel or a mouse? It's a squirrel.
It's a possum.
It's a possum.
Supposedly.
What?
Supposedly.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing. All right, Brightfield Mustang, 3 and a white for a 3/3 horse alive from hell. Brightfield horsepower. 3 and a white for a 3/3 horse mount. When this creature attacks while saddled, untap it and put a 1/1 counter on it. Saddle 1. So this card is pretty good. It's interesting because it does not get the counter. So it's almost like your Mustang is truly a good boy in this instance because it's probably dying for its rider, right? Because a 3/3 attacking turn 5. Oh no! It does untap it. I'm sorry. I was reading it. I was reading the saddled creature untaps and gets a 1/1 counter. No. Okay.
No, this does.
This is the one that. So it is a 4/4 attacking with vigilance, basically, whenever it's saddled.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, however easy you can saddle this makes it better. I think we saw this in the last saddle set, something very similar to this, and I don't think it was
Surely, I don't think it was
great.
great. Yeah.
Don't
This
think it
also
was
dies to, I know lightning bolt is
removal.
in the set, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
at 3 it's worse.
I'm gonna say it's a C to C minus.
I think it's a C minus.
Yeah, like
Sorry,
four
horsey.
four fours for four C minuses, and this takes a little work to get to that, with the promise of maybe better.
And you have to saddle it
Yeah,
for it to even do that.
you're good.
Broadcast Rambler. 4 and a white, so 5 for a 5/4 artifact vehicle. When this vehicle enters, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token with flying. Through 1.
Okay,
So, yeah, yes. Yes.
sure. So it's
Yes.
basically a 5/4 for five that is more vulnerable than a normal 5/4 for five. It's almost like
But does
not
make 2
vulnerable to
artifacts.
dying. It's like vulnerable to getting self pacifismed by getting its 1/1 removed. But then crewing one is so cheap that that's almost not a cost. So then you could almost view the 1/1 as like pure upside. At which point this
Yeah, I
card would
think
be
the 1/1 is
crazy,
pure upside.
or
Yeah,
maybe
1/1
still
is
not
pure upside.
crazy. It is also double artifact
Yeah, I don't think it's
procs.
crazy.
It counts
See,
towards two
that's what I'm
artifacts,
excited about. Yeah.
affinity and stuff like we've seen, but it does cost five. So like
Yeah.
affinity
In Azorius,
is
this feels hilarious.
it does cost five though. I mean, you're asking a lot from five
Yeah.
drops. You're asking for a lot more than a
Yeah,
five
that's
four for
fair.
five. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And as a color, a 1/1 Thopter isn't as exciting as drawing a card. I mean, if you really care about artifacts, this is
If
pretty
you
good.
really care about artifacts, this is good.
So I think it's like a C, maybe a C plus.
Yeah.
It goes a little wide ish. By nature, vehicles and saddle doesn't really go wide, but it benefits from you going wide.
Yeah.
Um, by the way,
It,
vehicle, saddle, saddle, artifact, vehicle. We have not seen a
yeah.
normal creature yet. So I guess I should say mount
No.
instead of saddle. They're all vehicles and mounts.
Oh, this art.
And pilot!
Oh,
Canyon
baby.
Vaulter. 1 and a white for a 3/1, an uncommon core pilot. Whenever this creature saddles a mount or crews a vehicle during your main phase, that mount or vehicle gains flying until end of turn. That's pretty good with the 5/4. I
Yeah.
wonder if I bet it's just design flavor that anything that's a pilot has to at least crew three.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
would be
That has
offended
to be.
if there was any pilot that only crewed for two. Out, they failed the design test. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this is like a B minus. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a C minus if you're not mounting or saddling. All we have seen, or sorry, not mounting. If you're not saddling or crewing, but all we have seen
Yeah.
is crews and saddles. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
for
I
it.
mean, I think this is good. The set.
Yeah, it seems good, and it's a bailout 3/1 for two, which isn't the worst.
Oh, another pilot. Cloudspire Captain. 2 and a white. Another uncommon. Mounts and vehicles you control get +1/+1. This creature saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So this actually has the text, so it crews for 4.
Crews for four,
Interesting.
which is yeah, I mean that's better.
And it's a mountain vehicle lord.
I would say four is not appreciably better than three, but since this wasn't three, four is appreciably better than
Yeah.
two. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, then pumping them all. I mean, so again, we've seen now we have only seen in white, aside from that one artifact, mounts, uh, vehicles, and things that care about them. So very
Yeah.
much the build around there. So yeah, this is like a build around B plus. I think like making them all
Yeah. Yeah.
bigger
Yeah.
is just business.
Because they're already overstated.
Yeah, it's the
So
lord
you're
of
just
them.
guaranteed able to crew them.
Yeah, it's like, this is like white beats, right? Like, you play this, and then you just keep playing, like, vehicles that give you slightly more value and then are also impossible to effectively trade off the board, and you're just like, how do I beat this?
Yeah, green-white's looking tough.
It is. It is. With that untapper, man, that Selesnya column is just ridiculous. Yeah, I think this is like a build around B+, but it looks hard not to build around it, so I'm still just going to say it's a B.
Right.
The art is an A+. I love it.
Oh, yeah, that art.
Collision Course, give me some modality, baby. 1 and a white for a sorcery. At common, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of permanents you control that are creatures and or vehicles. Interesting.
That's interesting.
Very inclusive. Or you can destroy an artifact. This card is fantastic. I'm gonna say this is a B+. It's not an instant, so maybe it's just a B, because it's not an instant.
It'd be this card would be pushed
if it was an instant. Yeah. I mean, I will say that a lot of these artifacts are getting you some extra value, but
yeah, ETB.
Like the one that makes a Thopter, right? But you're still like not happy.
Let me tell you how upset you are if you have your 4-drop destroyed by this that does nothing basically when it vigilant.
Yeah.
+0/+1.
But then it also has the bailout of like, because I am in white, I probably have like 5 things and I can just shoot a creature, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll say this is a B.
Part of it more than anything.
I think it's a B. Yeah, we saw it on the MDFC land, but this is that was the one that was just creatures, but this is inclusive of vehicles. Just nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a B. It's great removal. We'll play. How many of these would you play? It is a little bit parasitic in the sense that you can't play a ton of them because it decreases creatures and vehicles. But then it has the artifact bailout, but not all decks. Maybe all decks have all decks. Yeah, I'd probably play 4.
Yeah.
5, I think, is pushing it. Then you're having to pay very little other things that are not vehicles or creatures.
Oh my god.
Daring Mechanic. Is this me or you? This is you.
Daring Mechanic, 2 and a white. Also incredible art. Human Artificer 3/3. So a 3/3 for 3 that if you pay 4, 3 and a white, you do not have to tap it. Put a 1/1 counter on target mount or vehicle.
Again, it cares about mounts and vehicles.
Mounts and vehicles. Yeah, I mean, this is... We've seen most things are crewing for 3. So
what do you think? What do you think? How good is it? How good is it? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's very good. I think it's probably C-9-ish because it's so slow. It's so very slow.
Okay, I'm just not being weird. I'm just a sucker for threat of activation, so I think it's good. I think it's a C+. I love threat of activation. I love the idea that I can have 3 mana up or 4 mana up and never use it, and it still make combat impossible for my opponent. That's what gets me off on cards like this. Like, I have that stupid 5/4, and if it was just a 5/4, they'd be fine. But instead, I have this too, so it could be a 6/5, and now they're screwed.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a counter, and the fact that you could just hold your mana open, and then at the end of turn, or like even in late game, right? What a mana sink. You're just like, oh, I drew a land for 8 mana, don't care. And the fact that it can hit creatures, not just vehicles, it can like actively make something bigger because they're mounts.
Yeah. The mount one is compelling.
And it's just a 3/3 for 3. I mean, don't hate that. I mean, I don't hate
like
it.
I said, it is also just crewing. Like if you have a 2-drop vehicle that's for 3, you're real happy.
Yeah.
Play this.
Yeah. That could actually make 3/3s for 3 better. Just like the over crew costed, cheaper stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever here's I have to do another flavor text reading because it has all caps. Just a few more builds. Shark on your right, and we should be good to go.
I'd like to party with
Good.
this man. He
Oh yeah,
knows how to get down.
he's having a hell. He's high as balls. He's tripping like crazy. Yeah, amazing art. I think this card is great. I think it's like a C plus. I would play quite a few of these. I'll play like 3 of these. Detention Chariot. How much do you want to bet this is an Oblivion Ring? 4 and 2 white for an artifact vehicle 6/6. When this vehicle enters, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until this vehicle leaves the battlefield. It crews for 3. There's our crew 3. And it cycles for 1 singular white mana.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love it. A very expensive Oblivion Ring. But I like the fact that you don't have to crew it, so you can force them to remove the artifact, right, to un-Oblivion Ring it.
Yeah.
But also it's a 6/6, which is
it's
the beater.
That ain't nothing.
And then cycling for 1 just brings it home for me. I mean, I'm playing 3 of these. I would legit cycling for 1 is almost free, as you'll see in like the same way that it was in Lord of the Rings, just like mana filler. That's another one of like the secret brilliant mysteries of what makes Magic such an excellent game is the difference between 1 and 2 mana is massive. Massive difference between 1 and 2. So yeah, I think this is like a B. I would say this is probably a B, just because you just free roll it. Like I've just played this, play 3 of these. Right. It's like imagine you play this 3 turns in a row or something stupid. Oblivion Ring. And it can hit artifacts too. Yeah. Oh, take this. This is as good as this can get.
1 and white. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. Cycling for 2. Wow.
So the worst this can get is 2 and a white.
On a vehicle a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right, because they're like you said, they're overstated and undercosted, so there's more likely to be targets for them in this set than there are typical sets. This is an uncommon, which again is a hint. We like to talk about hints. Because let's talk about the floor of this type of card, where this is like basically not playable outside of the sideboard in like your actual pre-release sealed, is when it's 2 and a white and a sorcery for this text, right? That's like bottom of the barrel of this design. This is the very top of the barrel of this design. Because it is 1 and a white, it is an instant. It cycles for 2, so it's never dead, and this set is predisposed to have more targets for it.
Yeah.
This is a
B plus.
This is a B to B plus. I would call it a B plus just because it has cycling, and I'm just a sucker, but it's probably a B.
It's
and it is an uncommon. Yeah, and it is an uncommon.
Very good
removal. I don't think it's as good as the other white removal. Ironically, the common. I think the common is probably better. Like it doesn't bail you out, but it also doesn't need to bail you out because it's killing a creature or an artifact. But that still shows white has excellent removal. Being at instant speed is the other one was sorcery.
Yeah, the other one was sorcery.
All right, Glory Heath Links, 1 and a white for a 2/3 lifelink that gets better than that. That's its starting point. I know it's a mount. I know it's a cat mount. Its starting point is 2 mana for a 2/3 lifelink. That only costs 1 white. It's not even double white. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Sure. Is this card constructed playable? On a saddle 2 is kind of a lot, but...
Yeah, saddle 2 is a lot, but that's really good.
It's playing around with, like, things that have been constructed playable. Yeah, 2/3 lifelink for 2 that draws you a land is crazy, and it's probably doing that once at least in every limited, right? Unless you draw it, really off curve, and even then you can cash it in for a land and 2 life.
Right.
Force him to block better with combat tricks. We've seen the ability for white to pump stuff and other colors like that flyer that pumps 2 other things when it ETBs the 2/3 Azorius one. So
yeah, this card's just very good.
Yeah, I think this is a B. It might even be a B plus. I mean, this is hard to beat on turn 2. Like, this is a grown test. Your opponent's on the play and they play this turn 2. You're just like, I hope I have better than a 2/2 on my turn 2, because if I don't,
so someone has an
I'm in
insane
trouble.
max speed start, and they're like turn 1 insane max speed starter. They're like turn 2 a 2/2 that has haste, and you're like doesn't.
Because this, exactly. This is also the bane of the white removal stuff like this, right? Like neither white removal spells we've seen do anything to this.
Right.
They don't kill it. Yeah, so that's like a B, maybe even a B plus. Extremely good. All right,
Yeah.
you're good.
Guide Light Synergist. 3 and a white for an artifact creature, robot artificer. It's a 0/4 flyer, and it gets +1/+1/0 for each artifact you. So that could be a beater. So it's always a 1/4.
It's always a 1/4. This is this is probably really good.
No, I think this is really strong. I mean, this is obviously going to be like Exodia for Azorius, but like we also haven't seen a lot of 1-drops, but I'm assuming there's going to be back 1-drops that are insane.
Yeah. So a
This
2/4 flying for 4 is like meh. A 3/4 flying for 4 is like pretty good. 4/4 flying for 4 is typically a rare. Sometimes they print that at uncommon. And then
anything above that.
up from there is pretty much only rare. So
The thing about this card is it single-handedly is strong enough to allow you to just shit things out and just attack with, which I like.
yeah, yeah. I still just think it's like a B minus, or maybe just even a C plus. I don't know. I just have to see. Obviously, it's built around.
We've seen so many artifacts.
Declarative: a unit is only as strong as its network. It's happy though. It has happy eyes when it's flying through the sky.
It does. It does. Entirely sure how it's.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good, but I really don't know how good. Like if you have an absolute ton of artifacts, it's like a B. So it's like a build around B. I don't know how interested I am in playing it if I don't have a ton of artifacts. This might convince me to play it. Interface Ace, 1 and a white for a 0/4 artifact creature robot pilot. This creature saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles using its toughness rather than its power.
Whoa.
Whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap it. This ability triggers only once. Marvelous.
Yeah.
This card is so cool and also, I think, very good. Because it allows you to either double crew and mount, or crew and mount and block with a 0/4. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, this card is nuts.
Yeah, this is
And it triggers artifact. It's a pilot and it's
and
an
it's,
artifact.
it's an artifact. So this shows, I think, how build around white is in crewing and saddling, because this is basically nothing if you're not doing those things.
Yeah,
But if you
yeah.
are, this is an easy C plus, and is maybe even the best common in white. Like if white is exclusively that archetype, which it seems like it might be, this might be the best common in white. Although that removal is pretty good.
You don't give a shit about that possum turn 1 most of the time. But when they play this turn 2 and it's immediately attacking in 2 in the air and with vigilance, you're like, oh shit.
What possum? Oh,
The
the flying
1-drop,
possum.
because you
Yeah,
can play that because its crew would
right.
be
It
3,
would
but
crew it
this just
immediately.
crews it anyway.
Yeah. That saddles it. Yeah, and can still block.
Yes, and this can still block.
That's what I mean. Like this could be the best white common. Like if that's everything you're doing.
Yeah, this might be. Yeah.
So yeah, a C plus, and definitely one to look out for.
Agreed.
Makes everything work. Um, it's a Leonin. So wait, is this you?
It's me.
It's you.
Leonin Survivor. Leonin
Close.
Survivor. 1 and a
Close.
white
Still
for a
not.
creature.
It's a surveyor.
Surveyor. It's a surveyor. 1 and a white for a creature cat scout. It's a 2/2. Start your engines. During your turn, this creature has first strike. And for max speed, exile this card from your graveyard and draw a card. That's an interesting payoff.
It's a very good payoff. Exile this card from your graveyard.
Yeah.
Not a card. A card would be crazy.
Yeah. No, that would be crazy, yeah.
I like that max speed payoff because, like, it's dead, and then it's redrawing you.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. And it does start your turns as early as turn 2, so, like, odds are by turn 7 or 8, unless you've completely failed at your game plan, then it doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
You'll be able to redraw from this for 3 mana, which is pretty expensive, but it is at least an instant. During your turn, having first strike is also good for both combat tricks and for increasing your speed. So
it's funny for Petramos.
And I think that's true. I think starting your engines, like I said, on turn 2 is where I'm like still pretty enthused about it. Like I think that's quite good. So this is another good comment, and I love the flavor that this thing is. A good comment. The flavor is this thing is surveying to like build another track because there's like a track in the distance. You see this little loop.
Yeah.
So it's like it's out there looking for the next loop to build. I think this is a C+.
Maybe. I think it's a C to C+. But yeah, I think it's just very good. Yeah, it's probably a C+. It's probably a C+. Yeah, this is a great 2.
I'll say we have not seen much speed. We have not seen much speed, but this does
white.
Everything involving speed. Oh, this is now this is quite the case study because now a couple times I've said combat tricks are good with this in white. So this is 1 white mana for an instant. It gains +2/+2 until end of turn, and it cycles for 2. So it is a not very good combat trick. It has no lasting effects. It is as cheap as you can get, and it has the bailout, and it has discards energies that we haven't also seen yet in white. I still like it. Honestly, I like it a lot more than I normally would a combat trick just because it has cycling. Like, cycling's so good. Yeah, I think it's a C- to a C. If you have enough things that fall into the category. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If this didn't have cycling, this is a D. It would be a D to F. But if I have several things that enters my head, a combat trick is good with this, I'd even play 2 to 3 of these. Like to play 3 of them, I need a lot of things that say that make me say in my head, combat tricks are good. Also, if I'm really aggressive, like really speed. Like again, imagine this thing with the 2/3 lifelinker, outrageous. This thing with this 2/2 first strike, outrageous. I mean, yeah. So I play 3 of them. Let's if I had 2 of those 2/3 lifelinkers and like 3 of these in my deck, I think that's already enough. Just assuming I have generic other creatures to consider putting 3 of these in my deck. Probably still 2 is better, but I think this is a C-, but trending upwards from that into the C range, and maybe even higher if you really build around it. You're good.
Light Wheel Enhancement. 1 white for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature or vehicle. Start your engines. Enchanted permanent gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. Max speed, you may cast this card from your graveyard.
Okay. I was gonna say this card's bad until I read max speed.
Oh, baby.
Because you're never like it costing 1 mana is not like a start your engines for 1 mana, obviously, because you're not putting this on anything on turn 1. Unless it's Memnite. If you have 0 cost Memnite, this on turn 1, that slaps.
Oh my god. Exodia.
Yeah, that would slap. That'd be hilarious if they reprinted Memnite. Memnite Pilot. It's Power Creep Memnite. It's Memnite, but it cruised for 3.
Yeah.
So let's see.
How
your deck, if your deck is very good at getting max speed, I think this is good. Because just permanently being able to play
red, white, this seems like it's nuts.
Yeah, it's better if you have rummage effects right, and you can just like early discard this, and then in the late game, it's just like a good equipment, right? It's like an equipment that
Right,
costs
right.
one, and always just gives something +1/+1 in vigilance. Um. So
Because it
yeah,
doesn't like every single time it dies, you can bring it back. How many
yeah,
of these would you
it,
play?
it doesn't proc anything. One,
Two?
one, maybe two, but like, I don't think these are good early at all. Like, not
No,
very
they're not.
much.
They're not. Yeah, this
And
is
it is
such a
actually
weird
kind of
card.
compelling in multiples. Like, if you have two of these in your graveyard late game, you don't hate it. If you're at max
Yeah,
speed,
yeah,
you're just
yeah.
like, oh, I drew a 3/3, it's a 5/5. Oh, I drew a 2/2,
Yeah.
it's a 4/4 with vigilance. Um, this is an interesting card. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. It feels so
Yeah.
dependent on hitting max speed. If you do not hit max speed, this card is an F. If you hit max speed, it's a C. I don't know what this card
Yeah.
is.
Maybe maybe this card is really good if you've got a 1-drop and you play this as your 2-drop on the and can hit them with the 1-drop.
Maybe.
Because that still puts you at
Maybe.
2
Oh,
max speed, turn 2.
we could think about this in Commander too, though, for like a light pause, or maybe even like Modern.
Yeah, so yeah. Yeah.
If you have any Enchantress stuff, like if you manage to somehow have speed and Enchantress and a way to sack this, you can just pay one mana to like keep
Yeah.
recurring it and drawing a card. Because there's like no limit to that. You can just keep just
Right, right.
castable from your graveyard. Because there's that other card that does that. I think it Sentinelize
I don't know.
that you have to exile cards from the graveyard when you recast it, whatever that mechanic was. But it's very similar to this. It was like it cost one mana and it gave. I think it was literally one mana, gave +1/+1 in vigilance, but you could pay one white mana and exile two cards from your graveyard to play it again from your graveyard.
Interesting.
So yeah, we'll see. I think this is like a build around C.
Yeah, agreed.
Lotus Guard Disciple. Oh, this better be good. It's guarding a Lotus. 2 and a white for a bird cleric 2/2 flyer. When this creature enters, target creature or vehicle gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. So it's a Windrake that hopefully does a pretty good life swing when it ETBs. Needs the crew 2. So this is pretty good with the 3/3s for 2. This is pretty good with the blue wall, right? The 3/3 for 2 that is a creature during their turn, because you're doing probably on turn 3 you're doing a 6 life swing with this, and then you're also threatening them with a flyer, and you have a 3/3 on the ground, which is hard to get through. So that's kind of a neat combo. So it depends how many more things like that. I mean, this is also a beating in the late game. You're just like attack with my stupid 6/6 Oblivion Ring. Now it has
Right.
lifelink and indestructible.
Yeah, good luck.
I'd say this is a C.
Yeah.
I think that's good enough to be
It's just a C.
playable.
It's just a C. Yeah, playable.
It could play its way to a C plus maybe, because it does also work with like start your engine stuff. Just having the evasion is maybe a little better. Speaking of,
baby.
take it.
Oh, baby. Nesting Bot. 1 white for an artifact creature robot. That's a 1/1. It starts your engines,
And it
and
gets
when this
better.
creature dies, create another 1/1. And at max speed, this creature gets +1/+0.
Well, that does everything we've talked about wanting.
Yes.
I want a 1-drop that starts your
This
engines. I want a 1/1 that dies into a 1/1. It would be crazy if they were
I want
artifacts.
more artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Its max speed is hilarious.
Oh,
Its max speed is
yeah.
I'm excited! I did it! I'm a 2/1.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Savannah Lions.
Yeah, this didn't need the max speed on it at all. But
No.
yeah,
But it gets it.
Eat your heart out, Lions. Yeah, this card is great.
This is an uncommon.
This is a B.
This card has to be an uncommon.
Right. Yeah. If this was common, it would.
I think this is probably well. So it's a little weird because now, from what I've seen in white, I'm not sure how many white decks are actually going to care about speed and starting your engines. It definitely seems heavier in the slower saddling version.
Well,
So
I think once again they're going to be good for red white.
so
They're
the
going to
thing,
be that's the start your engines in white.
this is extremely good for the artifact theme. This is extremely good for
Yes.
the um sacrificing like Orzhov sort of theme. This is extremely good for the start your engines theme. But there's probably nothing that does all of those. But if you are somehow doing all of those, then this is like a B plus. If you're doing one of those, I think this is like a B minus, depending on which one you're doing. But yeah, it's really good.
Fair.
If the max speed was better, you could get me to like a solid B. If the max speed was like all creatures you control gain +1/+0,
yeah, well that's
then it'd be a B to B plus. All right, Pride of the Road.
Pride of the Road.
A big roar. 3 and a white for an uncommon 2/5 vigilance start your engines. See, for 4, it already feels just so much worse, right? Like for 4 start your engines. So the max speed better be good. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature or vehicle you control gains double strike.
Oh.
Target creature, so can include itself.
Yeah.
Which would just make it a 4/5 vigilance, effectively. So it's definitely better to target something else. It does not have to attack to trigger that. That's just static. Starting your engines on turn 4 is piss poor, but we've seen white does have certainly earlier ways to do it. It's kind of weird how the first half of the alphabet was all mounts and vehicles, and now the last half of the alphabet is much more about speed. I want to call all of these start your engines build around because it's such a narrow and precise mechanic, right? It's like you better do damage to them, especially if you're dependent on your max speed payoff. You better have some flyers, some evasion. Because we were talking about this.
If you have max speed when you play this card is a beating.
That's almost impossible. You also play this on curve, which is presumably what you're meaning. It's extremely difficult to do that.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
You'd have to start your engines on 1. You'd have to go to 2 on 2, and then 3 on 3. No, it's almost impossible because you would have to proc it on 4 right? Before combat.
Before you combat, yeah.
It's basically impossible. I'm frankly not really a believer. Like, I don't want to believe in speed because if speed was extremely good, that's just too fast of a limited format, which I think is a problem. So I don't want to believe in this. I think on paper this looks like it's a B, but I'm gonna call this like a C.
Yeah, I think this is closer to a C or C.
But yeah, if you're already really going down the speed thing, like you're putting this in your deck and you're hoping.
Yeah, if you're in a red white like beat down deck, then.
Yeah, I mean it's got components, right?
It's just double strike. It's just double strike to anything you want.
Yeah, it's like you nesting bot on 1, you play the first striker on 2, you play the Lotus Guard Disciple on 3, you give the first striker lifelink and indestructible. So they're probably not blocking it.
I feel like it's like a B minus in a speed thing.
Yeah.
But only there.
I'm just not convinced how good
C minus.
The speed thing is, at least not in these colors. Rakdos might do it. They were looking threatening.
Yeah.
Ride's End. Is this me?
Ride's End. No, it's me. 4 and a white. For an instant, the spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped permanent. Exile target creature or vehicle. That's pretty good.
Yeah. We've seen this.
Exile
this is good.
Something.
Yeah, for 2 mana. The fact that it's an instant is what, we'll see this get taxed down to a sorcery. That's when it becomes iffy, because that means you have to have chump blocked or something. But just 2 mana, and it's an exile. Anything that's tapped, it's not even like it has to be attacking. It's just tap
We have
for
seen a
some
lot
reason.
of vigilance, I feel like, in white.
You know what
Always
this?
the case.
You know what this is a beating for? Imagine that they just have the plan to offer a trade using a vehicle, right? So they're like, on turn 5, I play my 5-drop. I crew my vehicle with the 5-drop that becomes a 3/3. I attack with my 3/3 vehicle. You're like, trade the 3/3, end of your turn, blow up your 5-drop for 2 mana. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's rough.
I mean, is this a B? Just a B?
I maybe. You really have to be aware that this is in the meta because it's a common, like, again, for the scenario that I was just seeing, like, if you're playing against white, do you crew with your 5-drop or your 6-drop, or do you say no, I will not do that?
Right.
I want to say it's just a B minus, but it could be a B because it does have the bailout of just being 5 mana, and it is an exile. It's probably a B. That's 3 removal spells in white that are good. Roadside Assistance, 2 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature or vehicle, and it's an uncommon. This better be good. When this aura enters, create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with pilot text, and enchanted permanent gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. So yeah, this is good, but says just don't get blown out. You know, that's actually why I like the fact that this can target a vehicle. And also why I like that white common removal was a sorcery that can blow up artifacts so that it can't eat the vehicle under it. Because theoretically, unless they have they have to have instant speed, artifact hate in order to blow this up if you target a vehicle, which typically green only has like 1 of, right?
Yeah.
Giving a vehicle +1/+1 and lifelink and creating a pilot, like that's good. That I think that's worth a card in total.
Yeah, because it's immediately crewing a vehicle that you played.
Yeah, it's like last turn, I played my 2-drop vehicle, and then it's an absolute beating that they can't block.
Right.
But still, that's pretty conditional. Like, you really have to curve into it. I'm excited about this late game, maybe, because I can just put it on something big, and just have a huge life swing. I mean, putting lifelink on as an enchantment is sneaky good.
Selesnya bat.
Yeah, putting it on a flyer, putting it on like the 2/3 flyer or anything like that is pretty scary. This is a tough one. It's so, like, if it couldn't equip a vehicle, I would say this having to go on a creature just makes it pretty much unplayably bad because you just have too high of a risk of being blown out. Yeah. So I would say this is actually like a vehicle build around. Like, if I don't have a lot of vehicles, I don't think I'm too interested in playing this.
No,
period.
It's also making a pilot, which is just a 1/1 otherwise.
Sure. Well, it can saddle.
Yeah, I mean,
it can saddle as well.
Sure.
But
yeah, when I say that, that's generically for both. Yes.
Yeah, when I say you specifically have to have vehicles, because I don't want to target a mount with this. I want to specifically target a vehicle.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, I would say a vehicle build around. This is like a C+ probably.
Okay.
Very specific.
I'm willing to believe that.
Very specific. Here you go.
Spot Cycle Scouter. 1 and a white for an artifact vehicle. So 2 mana for an artifact vehicle. It's a 3/2. When this vehicle enters, scry 2. And it crews for 1.
This is the sort of thing that goes great with that last card. This is exactly what I mean. A 3/2 on 2. It becomes a 4/3 lifelink.
And crews for 1.
Yeah, I mean, you crew it immediately with the pilot it creates, right?
Yeah.
So they're not profitably blocking it the first turn, and the second turn it's still trading and has gained you 8 life, and you've scryed 2, and you still have a 1/1 left over. I mean, these are all good things. This card on its surface, it's a 2-drop that does nothing. I mean, the more stuff like this that you have in your deck makes me even more inclined to play that stupid flying possum, right? Just to crew this.
And obviously the robot. The uncommon.
There's just what makes me so undecided about these is there's just so much weird interplay between this being unlikely to be able to block onto and speed existing. Like there's this weird tension between vehicles and that speed mechanic, which is flavorful in the sense that like you gotta race to your vehicles if you want to race. You gotta.
Yeah.
It's like the full. Oh, what's the most famous endurance race?
Isle of Man.
No. The Le Mans. Le Mans, right?
Yeah.
It isn't that, but they start outside of their cars and they actually have to sprint to the car for Le Mans.
Yeah.
It's like the most dramatic thing ever. Intense. And that's actually why they put race cars started putting their ignition on the left side of the steering wheel, because as you slide into the car, it was easier to like insert into the left side of the dash and turn it. That's why Porsches are over there. Funny. Back to this card. I want to say this is just the C. But it's like better as a build around though, right?
This is a C minus, but yeah, I think it's a build around. Like I think it's unplayable unless you're really wanting to do this.
Yeah, the more you care about artifacts, the easier it is for you to make 1/1s. The more 1/1s you have for one, if you're trying to play this card, there's a lot of caveats.
Scry 2's not nothing.
Scry 2's allegedly a card. I would say it's 85% of a card.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna say C.
Weird.
Push.
Yeah, I'm gonna say C minus.
C, but you'll know when to play it. You're good.
Sundial Dawn Tyrant. 1 and a white for a legendary artifact creature 3/3. No other text.
This is where we are. I'm not. This is actually a new vanilla check, I think. Like we've seen this for a Selesnya. We've seen this for a Selesnya.
It's crazy that they made this legendary.
That is the check. That's the non-vanilla check on this.
Yes.
I wonder if it'd be too good if it wasn't an artifact, or if it wasn't legendary, because it's also an artifact. So if this was not a legendary, is this too good? Is this too good in like other formats?
Maybe.
Interesting question. Comment down below. Would this be too good for older formats, even standard, if it wasn't legendary? I think this is great. I mean,
this is also just this is great. It pilots things immediately.
I think this is a B.
It's an artifact. Yeah, it's a B.
Maybe it's a B minus.
Ridiculously good card.
Maybe it's a B minus just because it's worse in multiples. Like you take it more like a B minus because it's worse in multiples.
Sure.
Like I would play 2 of these.
Max.
Oh, definitely not playing. 3 of these would be pretty iffy. That's for sure. 2 is even a little iffy. B minus. Swift Wing Assailant. That bird is coming apart.
That art is incredible.
It is 3. I don't even know what's going on in the art, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
I'll have to see it in real life. It's got a lot going on.
Just 2 arms.
All right, it's 3 and a white for a 3/3 flying bird warrior at common. Starting your engines again for 4. It's going to be less interesting than its max speed. And its max speed only gives it +0/+1 in vigilance. Now a 3/4 flying vigilance for 4 would be good.
Pretty good.
The starting your engines again is not compelling. Just a 3/3 flying for 4 is very mid, like D+, maybe C- if the set's slow enough. If you have max speed somehow when you play this, or the turn after, I guess the turn after you play this would matter. But you would have to have it before combat the turn after you play this in order for the vigilance to matter. I don't think this. I'm gonna say C-. I don't think this gets out of a C-. Maybe even D+.
I think it can be a C if you're like very, very efficient at getting. Because even turn.
This is the most expensive card in your deck.
Yeah. On turn 5, I'm not mad about playing a 3/4 flying vigilance. 60.
Just the mechanic speed by itself might make combat tricks better. That one white
Sure.
combat trick. Going up. All right, tune up.
Tune up, 3 and a white, sorcery. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a vehicle, it becomes an artifact creature.
I told you, man.
Whoa.
You play that Gogar. You take that Golgari card. First pick that big stupid
Yeah,
6-cost
yeah.
vehicle. You don't even play black. You play it in Selesnya.
Yeah, you're not. Yep.
Cycle it.
Oh,
Cycle it. Draw. Recur it.
beat.
Blow up their
Yes.
permanent, and it's a 6/5
And now you
Menish
have a 6/5.
Trample or whatever it was. Yeah.
I mean, this is excellent. Imagine this with the 6-drop.
It's
The 6-drop. You cycle it away and make a bunch of pilots, and then just.
Oh yeah, that one, the mythic. Yeah, this with the mythic,
Yeah.
great. I will say it is more narrow than your normal reanimation, right? Because it's not like artifact or creature. So you like either have to cycle it into the graveyard, discard it in some other methodology, or trade off a vehicle. Trading off a vehicle isn't like super simple to do because people aren't like too interested really in trading them for real creatures, right? So it's weird. Like you'd be happier trading a vehicle.
I mean, they have to block them. If you've been getting some attacks in with a good vehicle, turn 2 and 3, I mean, they're gonna have to block it.
Well, no, but see, there's this weird mechanic is where like you're having to tap out to like attack with your vehicle, and like they don't really want to trade a real creature for a vehicle, and since you're having to tap out to attack with your vehicle, then I can tap out to attack with my vehicle. So you get like in these weird trade patterns where you're like not really blocking that much. That's where I said like speed is going to be also this weird mechanic in it as well, because you also said vehicles are like overstated, so like maybe you can't even trade your real creature into the vehicle. I'm just saying vehicles tend to do weird things to combat, and them trading off is not super common, but there are a ton of vehicles here. I'm just saying this is pretty situational, I think. Okay. More so than it might seem. Like if it had a creature bailout, yeah, this thing is a super massive.
Yeah, it's really making it an artifact creature is what I really love.
I mean, you could also say that it getting back any artifact is kind of compelling for like other reasons potentially.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And like other formats and stuff. Maybe even in here. Maybe in here too.
Like this in the Greasefang deck in Pioneer, just making Parhelion an artifact creature.
Yeah, an artifact creature. Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting in Greasefang. So when it comes to limited, the also hard thing to say is it's like, oh, this is obviously good in a vehicle build around, but how many vehicles can you put in a vehicle build around? Because something needs to crew them.
Yeah.
So I think in a deck that's really pushing vehicles, I think that wall vehicle, again, this is Azorius, that blue wall vehicle that we saw, is especially good. Wait, how did we see that? Was that in the mechanics section or something? I guess it must have been in the mechanics when we were looking at vehicles. Because it wasn't Selesnya, was it? It was mono blue. Wasn't it just... Yeah, it was 1 in a blue for a 3/3.
Yes. Yeah, no, it would...
Yeah. It was just the vehicle section. Yeah, so I think that card is quite good because it self-crews as a defender, which is like the fail case for having all these vehicles. There's been some other vehicles that can like self-crew and cards that can make them self-crew, so maybe you can get there.
Make things that... Yeah.
I don't know what
also,
to rate this, though.
If you have this card, especially with the dynamic of like other people having overstated vehicles that they might be attacking with, that you just trade yours off with theirs. Like, who cares?
I want to play four color green discard with this somehow. 4-color green cycling discard.
I would love to see it.
So yeah, I don't think this card. I think this card is actually kind of a trap on its surface because, like, the thing
What do
about
you
it.
think it's built around? But
Well, but like most vehicles we've seen cost less than 3 already. So like this costs 4. So if it was just any vehicle that cost 4, it would
but
be
it's
better
making
than
them a
this.
creature.
It does make them a creature permanently, which is
Almost
which is
all
better.
almost all vehicles are costed like 4-cost creatures when they're just a creature.
Correct, but I'm saying it needs to do better than that even, especially for how highly conditional it is. Like you could just very easily have no real targets for this, and
Vehicles. Yeah.
like what are you doing turn 4? Um, so yeah, I like it because I think it's hard to actually play this card at the right time. And like I said, I think actually trying to pie in the sky is some nonsense. Like the Gogari example is actually where this shines the most.
Yeah.
Like if I
I
pick
still
this
like it.
up, like if I pick, let's say you pick this up towards the end of pack 2 because it's late in drafting and people have just used the 17 lands plug-in to understand that this card has a very low win rate. So if you're in that meta, we're at the end of pack 2 and you pick this up, and again I see that Gogari card, I'm snap taking it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in green white, I'm
Yeah.
just snap taking that Gogari card because I'm just cycling it. What was that one white cycler? Was that a vehicle? I don't want to scroll all the way up.
Mm,
There was something that cycled from
I
one
know.
white.
I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah, any vehicles that cycle are gonna make that. Like, if there's enough vehicles that cycle, that's like in a playable combination with white, makes that card much better. I'll say that for sure. Like, if you showed me your deck had like 4 or 5 cycling uh vehicles, then I'd.
oh, it's the detention chariot. The detention chariot is the one that
Oh
cycles.
my god, it is broken with
Yeah,
that. It is
yeah.
broken with that one.
It is
Yeah.
hilariously broken. That
Yeah. Turn 4,
baby.
Oblivion Ring. I have a permanent 6/6. It does have Vigilance too or something? Or I think it was maybe
No,
just a 6/6.
it's just a 6/6. Yeah, it's just a 6/6.
Which I mean does make your Oblivion Ring a little vulnerable to removal, but still obviously it's stupid. Alright.
This card is silly.
Unswerving Sloth. 3 white white for a 5/5. It does not swerve. It looks like it's swerving. Anyway.
Well, it, it's just that's the direction it wants to go now.
Okay. Okay. All right, it just clearly knocked this guy completely off his rocker. All right, it's a sloth
Oh yeah.
mount. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gains indestructible until end of turn. Untap all creatures you control. It saddles for
Yeah.
4, which is a lot, but that's because it becomes a 5/5 indestructible that untaps everything, including what saddled it. So that's actually the way that this kind of reads to me. It's like just an unconditional battering ram. That's not
Yeah.
really fast because it's like if you have a 6/6 that can deal with this 5/5, it
Who
stalls
cares?
it. Yeah. But the fact that it untaps a saddle creature really makes the saddling like no cost, or however many creatures saddle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes it a 0 cost saddle. I think this is like a B to B
Yeah. I think this is a
plus.
B. Yeah. This card is nuts.
Like there was
And
something
you
that
you yeah.
wasn't there something that gave flying to mounts and vehicles? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
There
yeah.
is.
The 3/1, the 3/1 for 2, the Sky Chariot Rider or whatever. The motorcycle, it was the uncommon 3/1 for 2. Whenever it crews a mount
Yes.
or vehicle, it
Yes.
gives it flying.
That gives it flying.
Which doesn't line up perfectly with that because that's 3 and this is 4, but you get the idea. It's a house. Yeah, I think this is like a B.
For good.
It's also just a 5/5 for 5. It's not inoffensive.
Yeah.
It's not an artifact. It doesn't mount. All right, you're good.
Voyager Quick Welder, 2 and a white for an artifact creature robot artificer. It's a 2/4, and artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. I mean, isn't this just like whatever limited?
I mean,
I mean, there's a lot of artifacts.
so where we've seen this like be compelling is at 2 mana, right? We've seen that being used in Commander and all sorts of things. Typically, it's blue.
Sure.
This has a bit of a bigger body. I mean, I honestly don't hate the stat line of a 2/4 for 3, especially if I'm trying to do a little bit of a grindier game plan, because that'll prevent people from getting max speed on you. Slow them up a little bit.
Will.
And
or
I mean,
block some vehicles that they can move early.
It's double affinity too. They're funny in multiples.
Yeah.
Like it would be interesting.
In multiples.
It'd be interesting to play like 4 of these in a deck. You know, 4 or 5 of these in a deck.
Yeah, a 1 mana 2/4 is pretty funny.
Yeah, that's pretty good stat line. I don't hate this.
Multiple of these with because even like your 3 detention chariots you're playing. 4 detention.
It's an uncommon.
4 of these, 4 detention chariots.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how much you care about artifacts, but I would say in general this is a C, and I think it has room to grow from that. I think it could be like a C+.
Yeah.
It's neat. I like it. I like everything about it.
I like it too.
I'm not going to read its text.